What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of MCSC. So today we're going to be talking about the protests in Cuba. And to discuss this, I have a very, very special guest. You all know him from his show that is growing ever so quickly, Frank Analysis, and as a member of the MCSC network. Welcome to the show, Franco. What is going on, broski?
What's up, Niko? Thank you very much for having me on. Yeah, we are growing despite all the YouTube suppression that's happening right now on my channel. Demonetized. I was monetized for like less than 2 months. But despite that, when these obstacles occur, then that just challenges us to think of how we can overcome these obstacles. And, one of the ways that we can do that is via these collaborations. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here, man. Thank you.
It's actually pretty dope to have seen you grow. I mean, for those of you who don't know, Franco actually ended up being demonetized at the exact same day and time as I did. And the Convo Couch.
And yep.
And
as well as a lot of people. Jamarl Thomas. We all got the same email.
The same email at the same time, down to the second, actually. So that was fun. Still haven't heard back from them because they told us we could remonetize, and then I applied a month and a half ago, and they just haven't gotten back. So that's going to be a conversation I'm going to have with them this week. But it's all good because Rockfin has been taking care of us. Shout out to all of our Rockfin peeps over there. We are live right now on both YouTube and Rockfin. So shout out to all of our YouTube people, and definitely shout out to, once again, all of our Rockfin people. If y'all like and share this video, I'd greatly appreciate it. So we're going to be talking about the situation in Cuba right now. For those of you who don't know, there have been quote unquote massive protests in Cuba that the U.S. media has kind of framed as Cubans protesting their government over how they've handled COVID over the last year or so. So this is, oh man, hold the fuck up. Oh, bruh. Please don't take the bait. Bernie, so they try to just bait Bernie into attacking Cuba's government. So I hope
we shouldn't be surprised if he gives a response that we're not happy with.
I'm not wouldn't be
at this point.
That. Yeah, please don't. But so
don't expect AOC to come out and say anything positive either.
Yeah, I know, right? So CNN covered it, saying thousands of Cubans took to the streets on Sunday to protest a lack of food and medicine as the country undergoes a grave economic crisis aggravated by the COVID-19 pandemic and U.S. sanctions. Now, before we go any further, it's actually supposed to start shipping out its vaccine across the world, but as a result of decades-long U.S. trade embargoes and sanctions against the country, they couldn't actually do that. They're being limited. The policies severely complicate Cuba's access to international finance, and leaders in Havana say they contribute to crippling supply shortages. At the same time, harsh sanctions restrict access to vaccines and treatments in Venezuela, where immunization rates remain low as coronavirus cases continue to climb. Now, it also should be mentioned that these weren't the only two countries that they did this to. They increased sanctions in Russia, but Russia was actually fine. More importantly, they also increased sanctions in Iran just as the pandemic started. The same country.
Don't forget what they did to Press TV.
Yeah, they shut down Press TV also. But more importantly, though, the limitation of access to medication and potential vaccines for those who may want it, or the ability to ship those vaccines off. We're seeing once again in the countries that the U.S. does not like. What's your take, Frank? What's your take, man?
Like what we were saying earlier before this show is like they see that these countries are, excelling. And as soon as they see that, they want to stop that at no matter what cost. And so they try to accelerate these or exacerbate these economic blockades. I have here on my screen, if it's all right if I can share it, like, look at what they were just celebrating recently. They said Cuban scientists, this is by Casuca News. Cuban scientists yesterday, as they learned that Ceborana O2 plus Ceborana plus vaccine combo has shown 91.2% effectiveness. What percent effectiveness are Moderna and like Pfizer? They're about like 90%ish, right? This is higher.
Mm-hmm.
They want to give Cuba a chance to, be better than the
also
U.S.
not made by a company that's, just recently was sued by its own government for being fallacious, and that's the important part too.
Which one?
Yeah, which one? Yeah, in my particular, I'm talking about Pfizer. Pfizer was actually just sued 3 years ago for healthcare fraud by the U.S. government and lost, and then they were given billions of dollars. Good luck, everybody, for whoever took that vaccine, because y'all out here buying the bootlegs off the corner of the street from the crackhead who just got out of jail for selling bootlegs. So, but go ahead, Franco.
I was just gonna say, like, and we saw like how they had to pause the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Johnson & Johnson also has a history of lawsuits in the U.S. Finding like asbestos and all these harmful products.
Remember what they get a lawsuit for, Franco?
Finding like asbestos and baby powder, as well as having addictive properties in some of their off-the-counter drugs, right?
Yeah, they were giving babies cancer. The long and short end of it is they were giving babies cancer. Yeah. And the United States and its media actually believe they have a leg to stand on when it comes to criticisms of Cuba. Now, when we were talking earlier, Franco brought up a brilliant point to me. He was like, that's weird because I don't remember them covering the situation in Haiti at all. And I think that those protests, the protests of the puppet government that the United States installed in Haiti, probably a coincidence, but let's just say it's not. Those protests were from 2018 until the moment he was reelected or reselected. And they got no coverage. So why is this getting coverage all of a sudden?
Yeah, and then look at what the mainstream media is putting out. Like right here, we have the New York Times at live updates. Haitian officials request U.S. forces. The officials want U.S. forces to go there on the ground in Haiti. And then this is from The Guardian, I think, but I could be wrong. I gotta click on the image, make it bigger. Haiti requests U.S. troops to protect infrastructure after assassination. Are you buying this, Niko?
No. The important part is the one who requested the
government.
No. It's even better. It's the U.S. ambassador to Haiti, or the Haitian ambassador.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he was very specific about the kind of help they want. We want more help and weapons for our next elections. Very specifically, that's what he requested. And so you're seeing, in my opinion, this like weird all-out blitzkrieg by the U.S. empire to basically shut down democracy in places where they feel like democracy could become an issue. And then subsequently, or in other cases, continue to demolish economies in places like Cuba. Now, a lot of you may be unfamiliar with what Cuba has done for the last, year or so, as far as COVID is concerned. But I need y'all to make sure you subscribe to MCSC, because we've been talking actually about Cuba's treatment of COVID since the beginning of COVID, because of us discovering interferon alpha 2B. And if for those of you who don't know, interferon alpha 2B was one of the original medications that was proven to be even more effective than hydroxychloroquine when they were waiting for a solution in the United States and all around the world that the United States didn't want to acknowledge. So I will put interferon alpha 2B in the same category as the ivermectin and the hydroxychloroquine alpha 2B, in hydroxychloroquine and zinc, my apologies. And if we didn't hear about, you heard lies about hydroxychloroquine and zinc by the US media that they had to retract, lies about ivermectin that they ended up having to retract. And then for interferon alpha 2B, they never even touched it. Now, Newsweek covers, it says Cuba uses a wonder drug to fight coronavirus around the world, despite U.S. sanctions. So even when the U.S. was using all of its economic power to try and make Cubans suffer in the middle of the same pandemic that they said you had to end your entire lives for. Stop everything you're doing, everybody. This is a deadly virus, and we care about saving lives. In the middle of all that, they were like, but we're going to put sanctions on Cuba because we know it'll cause them to die or get sick, potentially. And that might make them want to overthrow their government, or make it okay with us overthrowing their government. That's the only reason they do this type of shit. But sanctions only hurt poor people and working class. That's it. That's all they ever hurt. The elites, if there are elites, will always be elites. That's why they're called elites. So Newsweek says Cuba has mobilized its medical corps around the world to distribute a new wonder drug that officials there say is capable of treating the new coronavirus despite the United States' strict sanctions that continue to pressure the communist-run island. The drug, called interferon alpha-2b recombinant, is jointly developed by scientists from Cuba and China, where the coronavirus COVID-19 disease outbreak first emerged late last year. Already active in China since January, the Cuban medical brigades began deploying to dozens of nations, providing personnel and products such as its new antiviral drug to battle the disease that has exceeded 400,000 confirmed cases across the globe. Yeah, that number is actually wrong at this point. But as of Tuesday, 100,000 people have recovered from the infection from the use of this particular drug. So in one scenario, we have the U.S. preventing people from getting medication, lying about the existence of medication, lying about the effectiveness of the existence of certain medications, while the other made sure that their country had access to literally every single option available from the moment this started. In not only their country, but even under crippling U.S. sanctions, they made sure other countries had the opportunity to use every option available, including one of the ones that they discovered. Now, Newsweek actually forgot to put something in this particular article, which is that it wasn't just the U.S. and China that came up with this drug. Why ain't y'all in the motherfucking streets? That's what I'm trying to figure out, Franco.
I think wasn't there an article, and I think you reported on it on your show, where it was talking about how Cuba pretty much has won against COVID because of how low the levels got. You would think that it's a global pandemic, right? It's a global emergency, that all these countries would come together and work together, put aside their differences if they're trying to save everybody's lives, but instead they treat it like a competition. So there's corporate interests involved even during global crises. They don't care about, the people. They don't care if like all these treatments exist, like ivermectin, budesonide, HCQ plus zinc, interferon. They don't care about, promoting this to try to help the lives of people, like in the U.S. Like in Peru, people were using ivermectin, like it saved my uncle's life. But instead, they spread all this misinformation about these treatments because there's nothing in it for big pharma, or there's nothing in it for them, and so they demonize these treatments that are going to help them out.
Facts. And let me just say really quick before we get, I want to get to some of these tips, but the way that Cuba, because we're talking about just beyond the treatment. If they found out there was one person who had it in the job, everybody would get paid leave. Everybody would get to go to the hospital. Everybody would have access to this particular drug. They would all get 2 weeks off before they returned. Yeah, you think that people would have had a problem with locking down as long as their businesses were going to be saved? As long as they were going to get a treatment that didn't, like, oh, wear a mask, that's a treatment, bitch. Like, what? No. If I'm in a hospital, a mask ain't going to save my life. If I'm already hospitalized, and especially in the U.S., because it's expensive to go to the hospital out here. You ain't going unless you about to die. So they handled it from top to bottom better than the U.S. did in their own country, and then everywhere else too, under crippling Western sanctions. That's the country that they're trying to claim people are protesting against right now. There have always been people who protest the government in Cuba, but it's like the opposition. Just like in Venezuela, there are always people who protest Maduro, but for some reason, Maduro keeps winning with one of the best election systems in the world, according to the Jimmy Carter Institute. So, yeah. Now, Shadow Band Refugee on Rockfin said, getting cuck-tubed rots the brain. Be rock fam and support the MCSC people. Shout out to Shadow Band Refugee. Yep, y'all go ahead and make that transition to rock fan.
I love Shadow Band.
Geography Pro. Hey Niko, have you ever thought of interviewing H.A. Goodman or appear on his YouTube show? Actually, you reminded me that I actually need to check up on H.A. to see how he's doing. 'Cause I haven't talked to him. He actually checked up on me about a month and some change ago. But H.A. knows I'll go on his show, even though he's been kind of trying to protect me, and he wouldn't let me go on for a while because he didn't want me to get backlash from him being so anti-Democratic Party. Black in the Empire, thank you for the tip. Wish I could give you guys more. Keep telling the truth. Hey, the $2 is much, much appreciated, man. Thank you so much. YouTube is throttling you, so Rockfin it is. For real, man? I'm streaming at the same damn time. That's crazy. Oh, I mean, we're talking about Cuba, so whatever. I guess it's not surprising, right? Sorry, guys. But go ahead, Franco. What were you going to say?
Oh, I just wanted to show what I have back here, right? You can see that, like, all these people that are coming out that the mainstream media, I'm sure, will report on any minute now, right? We're going to see this on CNN. Like, they're holding up, like, pictures of Fidel, right? They're chanting, like, we are Fidel, Viva Fidel. And then we see, oh, I wanted to show this. I'll mention this later, but we see people like on Twitter that are showing like all this misinformation. This guy is like, look at all these people that are protesting for, to liberate Cuba from the dictatorship that they're having. And then shout out to Fiorella, says this is Argentina.
Oh shit.
Like, look, this is what they try to pass as, oh, look at all of these people that are rising up and protesting against their government. Nope.
Remember
whenever Argentina.
So I don't know if you remember whenever they were protesting the Chilean government, the puppet government that we installed in Chile, and like the U.S. government or U.S. news wouldn't cover it. At the same time, by the way, that if I'm not mistaken, they were like in the process of overthrowing what's his name, Evo Morales.
That's always the case. It doesn't benefit their narrative, right? They want to manufacture consent so that we can continue these blockades. It's like, oh, look at these people that are protesting. This is why we need to continue these economic blockades. And this is coming after Mexico and Bolivia have all spoken out about ending the blockade and standing in solidarity with Cuba.
Big facts.
There's more pressure now.
So I think that we have to kind of, so there are a lot of people who are anti-war, anti-imperialist, who separate the U.S.'s treatment of maybe Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, even Palestine, from how the U.S. is treated and lied about Central and South America. Now, if I was the U.S. government, I'm not them, I think I'm a little bit smarter than them, I would probably try to use the same playbook if I feel like it has worked in the past. And I know that because the U.S. uses the same playbook all the time when they feel like it's worked in the past. Now, a lot of people are saying that one of the reasons that these I mean, I hate to be this blunt, but white Cubans, because that's the ones who don't like their government, are protesting in Cuba. It's because they're refusing aid from the United States. Now, I don't know if y'all know this, but do y'all remember the last time that someone accepted aid from the U.S.? I think about Assad, how their country was flourishing, beautiful, thriving. And then they got aid. And then, like, 2 days later, there was a civil war in the country. Went to Afghanistan, and then it's like we were there for Osama bin Laden, but like Osama was actually Saudi Arabian and actually was found in Pakistan, and we were like, oh, actually we're there to help the Afghani people somehow. And somehow, some way, that aid led to hundreds of thousands of them being killed by us. And Franco, why does it seem like every time we aid somebody, people end up dying and starving? Because basically what happened in Cuba was they want aid, but every time that's happened overseas, we see where that leads. So why would this be different this time?
It's not going to be different. I mean, you also we did that to Gaddafi also.
Oh,
and he ended up receiving a really brutal death because of it.
Somalia, Sudan.
What exactly? So what is it that what resources is it that the U.S. wants from Cuba?
Sugarcane. I mean, Cuba's massive. We actually do not draw Cuba accurately on the map in the United States. It's medical advancements, because Cuba is far more advanced than the United States is medically. And more people have access to, for those of you who don't know, Havana's medical school is like the best medical school in the world. Like, people travel from all over the world, including in Western Europe and in the United States, to go to Cuba's medical school, because they cured cancer and put it in an inhaler, bitch. Like, are you kidding me? This is what Cuba, despite the fact that the United States has put crippling sanctions on Cuba, these people can take a car that was built in the 1920s and that shit still works in 2021. Bro, y'all can't even keep your car for 3 years before it actually breaks down. They have a 50% male, 50% female legislature, and that just happened to happen. I don't even think it was a mandate. It just got like that. They have a 99% literacy rate. 99%. Y'all don't even have a 99% literacy rate in some of y'all households. Okay? And people, they have their, I mean, whatever problems they might have in Cuba, I guess what problem they have. I bet you nobody's ever going bankrupt because of medical bills. You don't hear any of the COVID horror stories from Cubans that you hear from people in the US, whether it be the people or their businesses. So you hear that there are issues and there's like ongoing issues, but these issues, unfortunately, in Cuba have been ongoing. But there was a source that put out 6,000 people have died from COVID in Cuba, which are all, by the way, if you go look, and this was the case even back then, it's mostly older people with comorbidities, the people that we knew were most susceptible, the same people who would die of the flu, effectively, in any given flu season. And I don't know if people understand this, but based on the US's numbers, y'all killed more people and hospitalized more people with this vaccine than Cubans have died of COVID. Y'all know that, right? And that's like out of the sample size provided. Do y'all know that, right? That's just the sample size of the people that could have potentially been harmed or killed by the vaccine or hospitalized. Cuba only has that number in actual COVID deaths.
But let's pretend Cuba is a problem and the U.S. has all its shit together, right? And the U.S., like even like before COVID, has way more homeless people than Cuba has people. Like we can't even give our people homes, but Cuba can. I'm sick and tired of these talking points that, you know, unfortunately some of my family members fall for, where they think that Cuba is like this country that's living in poverty because of socialism, when it's because of the U.S. blockade, and this is supported by scientific evidence. The U.S. blockade has been going on for decades, and even despite that, look at how much they've been able to accomplish, including the things that you mentioned. They were able to increase life expectancy there.
Yeah, Will M just posted that. What it says, the current life expectancy, he posted this in Rockfin for everybody who is curious. Current life expectancy in Cuba, in 2021, 78.98 years, a 0.12% increase from 2020. The life expectancy for Cuba in 2020 was 78.89 years, which is also a 0.12% increase from 2019. And the data for the life expectancy in the US is 78.7, which actually means that you have a better chance of living longer in Cuba than the United States. Ako Taco. What am I supposed to make of this, man? What do people need to see?
The U.S. lies. Like, they make you think, oh, look, because we have like these magnificent buildings, because we have all these billionaires, like because we have all these successful artists and athletes. Like, that's what you see. That's what's shoved down our throats. But they don't show the real picture of what the majority of the country goes through. The majority of the country suffering and like inundated in debt. Paying off their the medical bills of their loved ones, a lot of them which have already died.
But that's facts. I mean, my grandpa,
they don't want to show you how other countries, despite all the obstacles, have their shit together, at least better than us, way better than us. And they don't even know the difference between communism and socialism. They're like, oh, look how bad it is. Like, you think that they're going, like, everything will just be fixed with like a snap? Like, socialism is a process.
Yeah, and I mean, and like, let's be, once again, socialism works a lot better when you're not being cut off from the entire Western world. Also, and I'm not even a socialist. I believe in mixed economies based off of whatever your country's needs are, because every country has different needs. But most socialist countries at this point actually do that. They do have mixed economy. They just call themselves socialist or democratic socialists. But we have to remember that places like Cuba, Venezuela, despite everything the U.S. has done to see them destroyed effectively so that they can take them back over and roll them into the imperialist fold. They've survived, and where they have some issues because of sanctions, once again, because of sanctions, the U.S. hyper focuses on that. But like Franco said, bro, we've never talked about the fact, like we've never talked about what we've seen done to the middle class and the business class in the U.S. directly because of the handling of COVID, not because of COVID, because it could have been saved, but because of the handling of COVID. They turned around, looked at you in your face, and was like, "Yo, man, we got billions and billions of dollars to give away in this COVID." Didn't even read it, while simultaneously lying to your face, telling you that it was a COVID relief bill when it was a military appropriations bill that Trump had to sign, actually, because it would have shut the country down otherwise. That's what would have happened. Now, I still think he should have signed it, but
they treat it as if it's a disease problem. Like, oh, this is all happening because this disease just happening. Like, they don't want to acknowledge that it's a healthcare problem, why people died. Look, compared to other countries, look at how many people died, and look at overall, like if you're less than 70 years old, it's 0.03 to 0.04% chance that you will die if you get sick.
Oh shit.
Look at if these people got the right treatments, if everybody had healthcare, look how many lives could we have saved. They don't want you to talk about it in that perspective. Yeah. They don't want to change things.
How many
they want people to be scared and think that the solution is a vaccine.
If hydroxychloroquine and zinc had not been lied about, and in some cases in Western Europe even prevented from being purchased, how many lives could we have saved? Because they were loud about demonizing it, but quiet about the retraction. Isn't that interesting? Luckily, Yahoo News actually had some integrity and went back and was like, "Hey, man, this is actually saving people's lives." But most of the mainstream media still won't do so. You got interferon. How many lives could have been saved if interferon was made more accessible instead of being restricted in some cases? How many lives could have been saved if ivermectin had been widely circulated, cheap as hell, and widely circulated like it was by Cuba, instead of a lot of people didn't even know ivermectin existed until 2-3 weeks ago when Matt Taibbi talked about it. What the how does the U.S. media have the unmitigated gall to talk about anything another country is doing when what we saw was tantamount to fucking genocide, economic and otherwise? That's what we just saw, a genocide. And then they'll tell you that you have a Band-Aid solution with these vaccines, where now you're finding out one by one, oh, there's a problem. Oh shit, there's another problem. Oh shit, there's another problem. Let me get to these tips, Franco, and I'll let you go ahead and.
Okay.
Ellie Marino, thank you very much for your tip. Cuba's COVID situation was very well controlled until the end of last year when they opened to holiday tourism and were undisciplined. Then the surge started to happen, but they're still only 27th in infections per capita. The U.S. is number 1. Yeah, and you could make that argument, and that would actually be probably a more valid argument. But I mean, we open up our country to flu season all the time, and people be dying a lot, and nobody says anything about it. Like, see, I'm under the impression that we should actually have a month every year of paid leave to allow the entire fucking world to recover and allow people to recover and go on vacation with their families and boost the service economy, and allow people to just get their mental and emotional health together. I actually and so that way you have perhaps less interactions that cause issues like massive flu infections, potentially massive COVID infections, et cetera, et cetera. The U.S. would never allow that, though. God, no. They would never. But I don't think that we should conflate more infections with this idea that they were like, oh, they're undisciplined. No. Why? Because they're using interferon alpha 2B. They're using ivermectin. They're putting themselves in a position where the average person has an opportunity to defend themselves. And if you are a person who may get COVID, you also know, like say if it happens at work, once again, you also know that your whole job is going to be shut down and you have paid leave. You're good. You're fine. If you're a young person, you're good. You're fine. So I feel like we have to be careful with our wording, because the word undisciplined can be conflated with, oh, it costs people, a bunch of people, their lives in some unique way, when that's, in my opinion, not true. But other than that, I do agree with you. Ellie Marino, thank you for the tip again. She said, sorry, Niko, no, less than 1,500 Cubans have died of COVID since March of 2020. Oh, and that was the live news that they heard yesterday. So there are apparently, according to Ellie, I probably need to double check this, but there are lies actually being put out about the amount of Cubans who have died from COVID, which I guess shouldn't be all that surprising to us. Damn. I want to see what article. Go ahead, Franco. But I want to see what article said that there was 6,000 Cuban deaths.
Yeah. You see how people like Matt Taibbi are finally talking about this. Jimmy Dore, even though he can't put it up on YouTube, he was talking about ivermectin for his Patreons.
That boy,
they're talking
he been
about
out here
now.
He been out like an ivermectin evangelist, boy.
We're talking. They're talking about it now, right? That's good, but the MCSC network, we've been talking about this for a long time, long before that, which is why you should follow us and you should tell people to follow us. But I got my Twitter suspended the first time because I was talking about ivermectin, HCQ, budesonide. I listed all of these different treatments, and I linked people to a website that links to all the scientific literature that's supporting how these treatments have been effective, like when taken at the right time. Like, there's a lot of nuances here that you guys need to understand. But the U.S. and the mainstream news,
can you talk again about taking it at the right time, and like the importance of that discussion? That also
they don't tell you that. Yeah, they don't give you talk about nuance, and so they misguide people by keeping that out of discussion. Instead, they cherry pick whatever fits their narrative to tell them, oh, this person.
I got verification, bro. I got verification. 1,579 deaths
at the wrong time.
1,500.
Or they weren't giving it with zinc.
No, so I just got verification from the world meters. 1,579 Cuban deaths, bro. Total recovered is fucking 208,000. Bruh. What? So hold up. So their population is, I need somebody to do some math for me. Cuba's population, where the hell did it go? Oh, here we go. Cuba's population, so their total number is 244,000, and their total deaths is 1,579. Their recovery is 208,000. The total case in the U.S. 34,754. Good God. No, excuse me. Hold up. 34 million. My bad. 34,754,000. Total deaths have been reported as 622,000. Now their recovery says 29,268. Bruh. Now I'm not a math scientist, guys. I need everybody to know this. But them percentages don't look all that flattering, if I'm not mistaken, for all my math whizzes out there. Am I correct? Am I in the ballpark? I'm not sure what the percentage actually is, but it looks like the U.S. don't have no motherfucking room to talk about another motherfucking country but itself.
184 countries are in favor of being against the blockade against Cuba. 2 of them are against it,
removing it,
the blockade, which is the United States and Israel. 3 of them abstained from it. Colombia, Brazil, which has Bolsonaro in office right now.
Wow.
And Colombia is also a neoliberal country. It's it's nicknamed the Israel of South America. And Ukraine, which what can we say about Ukraine? Like, neo-Nazis are like at the border.
Well, the Ukraine is actually, I think, ran by, if Zelensky's still in, Zelensky's technically a leftist. Yeah, they got neo-Nazis, but they put the neo-Nazis there to overthrow or to call it to sow discord in the same way that you would expect. But they don't like Zelensky. That's why they basically, that's why during the whole impeachment process, they kept trying to tell us what Trump was saying and doing to Zelensky, and then refused to call Zelensky to the impeachment to talk about it.
Look at how overwhelming it is. 184 countries.
Mm-hmm. And
it's the 29th time too that the majority of the world has voted for this.
And if you don't mind, Franco, I want to go ahead and read this to the audience one more again. From this, I need them to see this once again how it's being reported. So thousands of Cubans took to the streets, quote unquote, Sunday to protest a lack of food and medicine as the country undergoes grave economic crisis aggravated by COVID-19 and U.S. sanctions. It says demonstrators complained about a lack of freedom and the worsening economic situation during the rare protests, according to the people who spoke to CNN and videos from multiple cities, including Havana. Now, once again, this is The Intercept. The smallest country in the world to produce its own COVID-19 vaccines. 5 immunizations are currently in clinical trials, and Soberana and Abdallah have reached phase 3, making the island nation the only country in America to reach the final stage of the vaccine development. In the meantime, 3 other kinds of Cuban COVID-19 shots are in early trial phases. This isn't even including interferon, which they've already been giving, which is why their cases seem to be so low. And it says last month Cuban authorities opted to begin early distribution of those 2 most advanced vaccines, deciding the benefits of the mass inoculation campaign outweighed the risks. And I'm sorry, but Cuba has definitely gained the benefit of the doubt here, considering they've handled their medical situations much better than we have. And says for the time being, any such plans are likely to be limited in scope as a result of decades long U.S. trade embargo and sanctions against the country. In other words, the U.S. trade embargo is not only stopping the distribution of vaccines into, or medicine into, or finances into Cuba, they're actually stopping motherfuckers from getting the shit from Cuba. That's what's happening. That's literally what's happening right now. But they're here to save lives. That's what the U.S. is all about, Franco. Saving lives.
Let's ruin some lives. Let's cause some suffering so that we can save the lives. Only for us to cause more suffering and then claim that we're saving lives once we install another right-wing leader into their country that they haven't had in decades. Because what was the situation like in Cuba before Fidel Castro, before the revolution?
Segregation. Lucky Luciano and his gambling crew was running Havana. And oh, by the way, back then when Batista was in charge, super weird, I know it's crazy, but do you know they were actually still considered a communist country, and Batista was actually considered a communist leader, and they had no problem with hanging out in Cuba and being in Cuba when they thought they can control the communist leader. But as soon as they get a communist leader who will fight against South African apartheid instead of fighting against fucking Nelson Mandela like the U.S. did, as soon as they get a leader who desegregates country in a time period where the U.S. literally was still segregated, literally. As soon as they get that guy in, all of a sudden, they don't like communism in Cuba anymore. I wonder why that is. It's almost as if the U.S. doesn't have control over you. That's the most important thing to them. Not whether or not you're communist, socialist, capitalist, whatever. That's all. Whatever. It is what it is. That's not what they're concerned about. What their concern is making sure they have control over your resources. First, second, and third. That communist shit, they can say the communism labels, the social, those are only labels that the United States uses to justify overthrowing any particular government, to get you to say that's a socialist country. That's why it's like that. It's a communist country. That's why it's like that. Bruh, if communism is gonna take the cure for cancer and put it in an inhaler, then y'all need to take a good hard look at how good capitalism is working. When y'all got, according to their numbers, 622,000 people dying when there was an $8 drug that could have saved them available, and the United States wouldn't talk about it. That's what y'all need to take a good long look at. Because I know there's a lot of people who always say there's no ideology that's killed more people than than communism, and you're like, I'm pretty
Jesus
sure capitalism
Christ,
killed more people in the Middle East this year than communism's ever killed in existence.
It's incountable. Like you can't even like compute how many lives have been lost because of capitalism.
Hell, we don't even have to leave the country to figure that part out. Like
Yeah.
like it's hard to figure that out. Like, okay, how many people died of just not having access to healthcare over the last 30 years? How many people have died from
Suicide,
during
during
COVID, more kids have died, more teenagers and young adults have died. Be anti-imperialist and understand how the U.S. lies when it comes to the Middle East. Understands how the U.S. lies when it comes to Israel and Palestine. Even understand how the U.S. lies when it comes to our own elections. And then you look at Cubans like, but this is the one situation. Or you look even at COVID and their coverage of it, whether it be here or in other countries, like this is the one situation where I know the U.S. wouldn't lie to me, even though they lie to me about everything else. This is one time. It's got to be this. Because last time was the one. With Syria, it was the one time till it wasn't. Israel and Palestine used to be like that till it wasn't. Nobody ever believed Iraq. Afghanistan used to be like that until it wasn't. Libya used to be like that until there was open market slavery, and then they all of a sudden humanitarian crisis no longer was. Nobody cared. Go ahead, wrap us up, Franco. What you got to say before we get up out of here?
Just to let people know to share this. I mean, MCSC is on it before a lot of people are. Other than us, it's like really serious investigative journalists like Ryan Christian of the Last American Vagabond, Whitney Webb, into thinking that we have to intervene in these countries and install the right leaders. Because the United States, they're so advanced. Like we're so advanced. Check out like all our advancements we have in our country with our buildings and our movies. We know more than these countries that are third world. We know. Just it's nothing new. It's nothing new. So just share the information that Niko and I have presented to you guys here, to whoever, like family member, friends who are falling into this narrative, because there's no time anymore for this. Things are getting exacerbated because as the U.S. successfully intervenes in these countries and takes their resources, they're going to become more powerful, more rich, and they can buy off our politicians even more, rig our elections even more, and lobby for laws that are going to benefit them, and so that they can empower themselves even more. And then that's how it directly affects you. That's why one thing we always say here is that there's no difference between foreign and domestic policy. It's all the same.
Yep.
Man. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Niko. I really appreciate it.
Brilliantly put. I'm gonna read a couple of these tips real quick before we get up out of here. Interferon is, thank you, Nicole, for the tip on Rockfin. Interferon is created naturally in the human body when the immune system is functioning properly. Herbal medicines like astragalus can increase interferon production, and she's actually correct. That is actually what interferon does. It gives your body. So what COVID, the virus, does is reduces the amount of interferon in your body, according to doctors. And that is how the virus is able to attack your immune system. But what interferon alpha 2b does is just naturally make it so that you're fine, you're good. It's not going to allow COVID to attack your body because the interferon is being replenished almost as soon as it is being taken away, which is why it was such a great medication, and they knew the side effects of it, which were basically none. T Leaves, thank you very much for the tip on Rockfin. And make sure before we get up out of here, go follow Franco on Rockfin. Frank, I know you've been killing it on Rockfin so far. Where you at right now on Rockfin? Because you just made a massive
right. Last time I checked, it's 8,500. I mean, not 85. My bad. What the heck? Oh wait. It's 8,500.
Did you man? I'm gonna check for Franco because he's like he guessing. Oh man,
yeah, that is right. That is 8,500.
You just checked?
I was thinking 85,000, but man, yeah, no one has. I don't know. I don't think anyone has 85,000 on.
Not on Rockfin. We'll be the first though. But yeah, go check out Franco on Rockfin. You how many you have almost double, right? Almost double the followers on Rockfin. You have subscribers
it's like,
on.
Times 2.5. No, times 1.5.
That's a very, very specific.
Then lure them into like information that they're not coming across.
That is
because
true.
in those videos where I talk about what recently happened with Vosh and what's going on with Jimmy, like I tell people I direct them to channels like yours. I direct them to Whitney Webb. I direct them to Vanessa Beeley, Eva Bartlett, So Newsday, because we gotta be in touch where the majority of the audience is, like in independent media, and lure them in, and then open the doors to this bigger world that's out there that they don't know about, so that they can inform themselves even more.
That is all facts that Franco is spitting. Yeah, you definitely got to meet people where they're at. And I hope that you all take the information that y'all receive here today and go let people know. Like, the lies, I mean, we've seen egregious lies from the United States, of course. Like, none of us, I feel like anybody who's watching, definitely on Rockfin, anybody who's watching, y'all not surprised hearing what you're hearing. But it's important to tell people right now why everybody's paying attention. Because we've been talking about Cuba, specifically regarding COVID for like the last almost a year and a half now, I think. And a lot of people weren't paying attention back then because everything was be scared. And Cuba wasn't the hot topic of the moment. Well, right now, Cuba is the hot topic of the moment. And right now we have an opportunity, just like we've had in the past with Venezuela, just like we've had in the past with Syria, just like we've had in the past with Bolivia, where now everybody has a general understanding that, oh shit, the U.S. is full of shit on all those issues. We have an opportunity to take their interference and lies, weaponize it against them, and now educate everyone who now is much more open-minded, especially given how much the U.S. has lied to them this year, and educate them properly on what's going on in Cuba, why the U.S. is involved, and doing so by linking, obviously, videos like this, articles like the ones we covered, but just linking it back to, yeah, you basically are saying that all of a sudden you believe everything else that you know is a lie just because you're preconditioned to react this way to Cuba. But I always tell people, you react a certain way to Fidel Castro, but for some reason, that's the only name you know from the 80s and the 70s. But you don't know that he desegregated his country or he fought alongside Nelson Mandela while the United States was fighting against Nelson Mandela and helping to fund the apartheid. Like, people don't know that stuff. And why do you think that is? Well, because our education system is 92% funded by property taxes, and those people who can afford to go to rich schools generally like, ingratiating themselves with the U.S. empire. So it's very convenient to believe the lies of the empire when you're trying to work within it and benefit from it. So you got to go out and teach people and meet people where they are, like Franco said. Y'all go follow Franco right now on both Rockfin and YouTube, Frank Analysis. And y'all make sure, if you can, consider supporting the channel on Rockfin by becoming a premium subscriber. It's just $9.99 a month. You get everybody's premium content, including my guy Franco over here. And we have our premium show, Rockfin exclusive premium show, every Thursday, 5 to 7. And for those of you who have been on our premium show, we get it popping. It's always fun for our premium show days. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this live stream segment of Mika Says Sukasa. Make sure y'all go follow Frank Analysis. Consider becoming a premium subscriber to Rockfin. But more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.